As I'm sure you're very well aware, a lot of people criticize Pump.fun and similar platforms saying it's gambling or it's the meme coin casino. And I wondered what your response is to those critics.
I know, just have a higher IQ, I guess.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unchained, your no-hype resource for all things crypto. I'm your host, Laura Shin. This is the September 11th, 2025 episode of Unchained. The crypto world is buzzing. On October 1st and 2nd, 25,000 people will be at Token 2049 Singapore, the largest crypto event in the world, featuring headline speakers like Eric Trump, Vlad Tenev, Tom Lee, Balaji Srinivasan, and Arthur Hayes. Visit asia.token2049.com now to get 15% off tickets with the code UNCHAINED. Today's guest is Noah Tweedale, co-founder of Pump.fun. Welcome, Noah.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm really good. I'm so excited to chat with you guys. Pump.fun is clearly one of the biggest crypto successes in the last couple of years. It's become one of the fastest companies to reach not only profitability, but also rake in huge amounts of revenue. You recently crossed $840 million in revenue. Your company also recently raised $1.2 billion in an ICO. You have even bigger ambitions to compete with social media giants. But I want to talk about the kind of the recent period, because it's not only have you had this wild ride the last couple years, but it's been sort of condensed this summer, I would say, with multiple ups and downs. Obviously this ICO sold out quickly. At the same time, the platform was losing market share and then got overtaken by Let's Bonk. Then the token kind of dropped precipitously, but then recently Pump has now flipped Let's Bonk again to regain the majority of market share. Now, more than 80% of coins in Solana are being minted on Pump.fun again.
For sure.
And it feels like you're kind of on this upward trajectory. You've made a bunch of new announcements. So I was just curious, how are you feeling at this moment in time? What are your general thoughts on everything that's happened?
I mean, that's a cool question, because I think obviously the past sort of couple months were sort of pretty crazy, I guess, from the outside perspective. But I mean, this company now, has been alive or existed since even before sort of 2023, right? So we've had a humongous amount of sort of ups and downs, really sort of all the way down, this is completely over, this company's going to shut down, to sort of this is doing sort of super well, and just continue sort of pushing it out. So I think it was from the outside, I know it seemed sort of very extreme, but sort of internally, it was I want to say too cliche, it's just a normal day, but it almost was. It was just this is just the next sort of chaotic thing, which is sort of hitting us. But I mean, that itself was it was a pretty unique scenario, right? Because the whole obviously sort of the development team which we have had to build out this whole sort of ICO platform for the for sort of Pump.fun. And that took a lot of time, right? And I mean, as you can see, so during the whole ICO process, our sort of system was the only one which sort of upheld the sort of onslaught of everything going on. So that was super busy to sort of working on that. But it was what the point I'm trying to get at, the 2-week period before this was happening was obviously extremely chaotic and sort of full on sort of heads down to make sure there was sort of no mistakes. And quite literally, the whole sort of development company was very much focused on getting this over the line, right? So that's when the whole sort of dog thing sort of happened, and we were sort of very much just focused on a different thing. And then once the sort of
by dog, you mean Let's Bonk?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay,
And then so we're on sort of there, and then obviously the sort of token launches. And I mean, I'll just be honest here. Myself, Alon, and Dylan, the sort of three founders, we hadn't had a holiday in literally 1.5 years. We were working sort of 7 days a week. We still are, but we told ourselves no matter what happens after this token launch, let's just take a week or something off to sort of just relax a bit. So that's what we did, and I think that's when the whole sort of chaos sort of went down. But then we sort of, as soon as we were back in the office, we were okay, let's just execute on this plan and then sort of get it over the line. So
okay. So during that period when people were they raised all this money, but there's no communication, you guys were actually on vacation.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, there were obviously there was calls going on oh, we should do something, which we were, but again, we did just want to sort of take a bit of a break, because I can't explain the sort of craziness which has sort of happened in our lives over this sort of past sort of 2 to 3 year period. So
yeah, no, I'm sure. I mean, just looking at it from the outside, it's very obvious. Well, let's talk about some of the recent announcements. You just announced Project Ascend, which, at least from the announcement, it seemed like there's going to be multiple parts to it. But
For
the
sure.
overall goal is to make projects and their communities more aligned. But let's talk about the dynamic fee model, which was, I think, the main one of the main pieces of that. So you just launched this dynamic fees V1, and it's this tiered creator fee structure on PumpSwap. Where the tiers are by market cap, and the higher market cap coins have this lower creator fee. So, like, describe a little bit more, like, the problems that you're seeing that you were trying to solve with this new structure.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that sort of goes down in sort of a deeper question, which I want to answer is like Pump.fun is we don't want. I mean, okay, look, it's obviously a crypto company right now, but our long-term ambitions for this company is we don't want to be a crypto company, and I think we sort of made that clear in our sort of announcement. I mean, we do obviously want to cater towards the sort of crypto native users and sort of continue growing that out and everything. But we want to become a company which has an impact globally, right? Either through be that sort of through financial means or through sort of social means, which is really what we're sort of working on. And if you look at the sort of leading social media platforms of today, like Instagram, Twitter, I mean, Twitch, I guess you could arguably also say is like a social platform, TikTok, all that sort of stuff is all these sort of platforms work for sort of one main reason, and that's because they reward the creators, right? And they reward the creators to continue to sort of produce content, just like YouTube as well. And our thesis was always to win this game or to win like globally with the best possible product, you have to build a product which is not just like 2x better, 3x better, but like 100x better. And that was the idea with these sort of creator fees, that we would heavily incentivize sort of content creators on the platform to one, just start creating content in general, and then two, be rewarded for it a lot more than anywhere else. And I think it's been really interesting to see like just the statistics that I've been sort of looking at over the past couple of days. Like streaming has sort of gone through the roof, like DMs, which is obviously prevalent on the mobile app, also sort of just like going up in like a sort of a direct line upwards. I think it sort of speaks to it. Like again, like if you actually go on Pump.fun right now and you look at some of these streamers, like I was looking at past couple of days, like people who've been streaming for like 12 minutes and have made like $150, right? Which like that isn't that much, but if you think about it, like this is with like 10 viewers, 15 viewers, and this money is just sort of flowing in, and this is like I believe like quite literally like a 100x better product than what's sort of out there in the sort of traditional sort of world, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, so I don't know what those, particular streamers were streaming about, but like most entry level jobs are not going to pay you $150 for 12 minutes of work.
Yeah.
So,
And again, these are just like streams, just like even just talking, nothing like too crazy. And I thought it was really cool to see, and especially when like it takes time to create like quality content creators, like the content creators like Mr. Beast and all these sort of famous people. Like they need like time to nourish and obviously start making money to be able to reinvest into their businesses. And I think as time goes on, I think hopefully we'll see larger and larger content creators having more and more of like an impact, basically.
yeah, so basically it's like you're trying to give enough of a financial incentive that like people who are unknown have a chance to like keep going to try to break through.
For sure. I mean,
But then,
it's sorry to interrupt, it's not only that, right? Because if you become an Instagram content creator now, like how many users does Instagram have? Like billions, right? So even if you get like 10,000 followers on Instagram, it's like you make no money. Like it's super hard to make money or to be able to generate any revenue. So one, we obviously want to allow our content creators to be able to get increased sort of cash so they can sustain themselves and create bigger sort of brands. But two, and almost more importantly, what I think is so special about Pump and what I really love about it is that the discoverability is that much better as well, because there's sort of net less streamers. It's actually way more likely to be sort of seen because you're sort of cramming these like whatever, like 300, 400, 500 concurrent streamers to the sort of crypto audience, which is sort of 5 million. So the sort of chance to fame or chance to success is a lot higher than on all these other platforms. And obviously, as the platform grows and network effects get bigger, then this becomes more and more difficult to attain. But I almost think like right now it's like the golden age to be able to sort of create something and then sort of it's kind of like Instagram at the start when everyone was sort of loving it and people were able to make a bunch of money, or the way sort of Tinder was said like, oh, at the start when Tinder used, everyone was able to sort of get matches, right? But now it's turned into this sort of hyper capitalistic sort of way of just like getting you to spend money on sort of in-app purchases instead of creating like something which actually works, right? So yeah.
Well, so I was curious then, yeah, because like when I go on the front page, like I'm honestly, and granted, I know I'm not your target audience, but like
Yeah,
I was just wondering, like, yeah, this discoverability notion or like how your algorithm works or whatever. Like when I go on there, I'm just looking at all these things, and like some of the streams I went in, it's literally like a guy on a call, like selling something, and so I'm like, wait, like why would I be watching this, or like how are you choosing what goes up there, or like yeah, just talk a little bit about like how
for
you think
sure.
people can get discovered, and yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, with the live, so the main sort of discovery algorithm is probably on the front page for the coins. Like for the discovery the algorithm for the live streams, it's actually non-existent right now. It's purely sorted by market cap, so there hasn't been much resources sort of diverted into that. If that makes sense. But again, like our thesis is, and I think this is sort of followed, is the better your stream is, the more attention it gets. The more attention your stream gets, the higher the market cap is. And I think that's how kind of like crypto works in general, right? And I think this is sort of going to continue over of how of this whole new sort of social financial layer is going to work out.
Okay. So you've also at this point done $75 million so far in buybacks. This is something that obviously the community has been excited about. There is there is a fair amount of talk though about how these buybacks are discretionary so far, rather than like something programmatic or like something where there's kind of like a set program around it, or and literally also just not manual. So do you intend to make them programmatic?
I mean, again, like this is like a broader question. I mean, if you look at the sort of space right now, what buybacks are actually programmatic? Like again, I correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm actually not sure if the hyperliquid buybacks are programmatic, like a lot of people like to insinuate. I'm pretty sure if those would want to be changed, they could be changed sort of very quickly. So that's the first thing you need to sort of assess. And I think the way we sort of made a decision about the buybacks, or Pump.fun made a decision about the buybacks, is we sort of looked at sort of crypto and see what are the sort of successful companies out there, right? You have like Binance, which obviously did like again, I believe it was like 50% buyback, so like 50% of their fees were being used to directly buy back the BNB token for the first believe at least a couple of years of sort of development, and then sort of Hyperliquid, which sort of executed directly 100% of the way with these 100% buybacks, which I think kind of makes sense. But again, like I think like yeah, like the way I like to see it is we see what has worked and we think that makes a lot of sense. But I can only comment about the past, which is we've done. I mean, obviously the buyback started with 25%, and then the decision was made to sort of change that to 100% buybacks. And I think Pump looks up to the sort of biggest companies in crypto and wants to follow in their lead. So yeah.
And I'm sorry, when you say 100%, you're talking about of the revenue, or what?
Of the
Like
revenue,
what?
correct? Of the revenue,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, and like this is like a really funny thing to me because just if you think about it, you raised all this money, and when you did that, you sold people this token. So like they basically paid you money for the token, but then now you are using money to then buy this thing that you sold back to them. But I guess it's just like maybe just it's the fact that this happened like in such a short period. So it's just like a
Well, I
funny
mean, again,
thing. But
addressing this as a whole, I think it's like arguably, like it's like it's not a wise business decision to do buybacks either for Pump.fun, for Hyperliquid, for Binance, or any other centralized exchange. Like this is like a very flawed ideology, which somehow crypto has sort of pushed towards the front. Like this, imagine this would be like Amazon paying a sort of 20% dividend, or like 100% dividend yield with all revenue generated since their inception, right? There's no way these companies will be able to hit this sort of global scale by sort of giving this much back to sort of to I guess to all the shareholders of it. Not that like the current sort of crypto stuff looks like that, especially the Pump.fun token. But I mean, again, I think it's just like it's seeing what works in crypto, and people. I think the truth is there's like a lot of sort of misconceptions or problems which come around from sort of the equity and sort of token split and how these companies are sort of set up. So it's important to like show belief and show and like demonstrate that if the people buying into stuff is that there is potential value there, or there is at least there is a possibility for buybacks which happened in the past.
okay, yeah. So you feel like it's like a particular problem in crypto. Maybe doesn't
Yeah.
super make sense, but it does, I guess, in terms of like community alignment. But I do understand like it creates.
I mean, think about it. For every dollar which is spent on a buyback, obviously it does make sense, depending on what kind of stakeholder you are. But that money could be used on marketing, it could be used on acquisitions, it could be used on hiring, it could be used on or bonuses, or all kinds of different things, which would arguably allow the company to grow, grow longer and larger in the sort of long term. But then looking at it in sort of more detail again, I think obviously Pump.fun is in quite a unique situation where it already has quite a large amount of capital, so that's very much up to them how they sort of allocate their sort of resources. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, because like another issue would be just like from a diversification perspective, it's sort of like FTT, FTX. But I understand like there is a certain crypto thing of like everybody being aligned on the same page. So I understand how it feeds that narrative. Let's talk about the Let's Bonk situation a little bit more. Like, why do you think it is that Let's Bonk was able to take so much of Pump Fun's thunder for a few months?
Again, there's like this whole dog thing. Like, it's happened like so many times before, right? If you look throughout Pump Fun's history, you've had stuff like, I mean, at the very start, you had Dex Screener launching a Pump Fun competitor. Then you had Justin Sun launching a Pump Fun competitor. Then you had, I'm just sort of thinking about all these different attempts which have sort of been made. I mean, Jupiter's obviously done one now, and the dog guys have done one. Then I mean, again, this is like, and of course, CZ as well. They tried on sort of the BNB chain with their sort of one, and they've done all these sort of large, and the same thing always happens, right? Like these competitors come up, they use massive amount of incentives to make their users make more money simply because they're buying these tokens. Bunch of obviously traders who are very accustomed to the sort of financial markets go over because they know they can make more money, and then it sort of goes like the market share goes directly back down again as soon as the incentives run out, which they always do. And again, like that's why I think it speaks about Pump. Like we're not like a partnerships driven company, or we're not like a company which is driven by like just like trying to quite literally like manipulate the market in this sense, or acting in like a really bad faith, which can come at the cost of the end users as well. We're here to, it's a product first company, right? Because at the end of the day, the product always wins, right? Like if you have like, I mean, if you look at, I mean, again, this is like a kind of very simplistic way of looking at it, but just looking at the UI on Pump, or just like the features, like the live streaming or the mobile app with the DMs, with the movers tab, with all this different stuff, which not a single other sort of product has. This doesn't seem like a lot because it's not like, oh wow, like it's a one stop, so everyone uses this one thing. But it's more like if there's like a 1% edge from coming from all these different little causes, this sort of stacks up, right? And this leads the product to be better in the end, getting the user over in the long term. So with this sort of stuff and competitors in general, I always refer back to the product, and the best product always wins. And this isn't in crypto; like this is worldwide, right? Your product has to be substantially better to win. And the everyday, like we're a devco here, like we're thinking of like how do we sort of structure this in a way which is the best possible product for the end user in every single way. And all this sort of other stuff is just sort of noise to us. And even like obviously we did lose some market share. Like obviously we'll be like, oh yeah, but we realized like this isn't the end game. It's like we've just had this happen like literally 10 plus times at this point. So let's just go back at it and build a better product, right? And that's the only thing which matters. And again, I think honestly, it was, as mentioned before, it was just like a lack of focus in that short time period, because of like the high stress environment of the token launch.
Yeah, I mean, like it sort of feels like it might have been more visible in a way because you had launched the token at that time as well.
For
So
sure.
it's just like so much attention on you guys, like even more than normal. And then like a market price. So, but I did, want to ask because I'm also noticing like I think Zora now is having like there's more like coin creation on Base than Solana recently. And I wondered, do you think of them as a competitor?
Again, no, not really. I mean, I think, look, I think that I like the Zora team. I think they've actually created something pretty cool just because of like this sort of overarching narrative, which I think like, well, not even narrative, like for me, what I want to do here is create a company which can work outside of crypto. And if you look at Zora and you open their mobile app, you see something quite special, right? Because they're not catering towards the sort of the sort of average crypto user with charts and all this stuff. They're building something for the Instagram creative, like the normie sort of generational, the normal user base, which actually use it. So I think that's quite cool. I'm not sure about that strategy. I mean, again, like obviously they don't make too much revenue compared to us, right? So I think that does speak for it about. But I think everyone here is going to take a different path, right? And I think it's just about sort of having conviction in your path and sort of following through on it. Like I think our sort of vision or way we sort of execute this is you focus very much on the user. You're user obsessed, right? You really understand everything what the user wants. Like you speak to users every day. You dig out and like what are your problems? Like what do you want? Like what are you understanding this? And I think it's risky, and we've made this mistake before. Is if you try and build like five years ahead for what the user is going to look like in 5 years, you almost forget about your current user, and that can cause like the whole thing to sort of almost collapse or just not work at all, and you just lose, right? So the trick here is like about user obsession, but about users which are currently using the platform and not ones which are going to be using it in a couple of years' time.
So even faster than Let's Bonk flipped Pump.fun recently took the top spot again, nearly overnight. This happened in August, and I wondered, how did you guys manage to win back that market share?
Yeah, so honestly, like I don't really want to. I don't like. This is for me. This isn't like a relevant. This isn't like a top of mind issue for me right now. Like I don't see this as being like something. One, I should like we should spend time discussing, or we should sort of just like address as a whole. I think like if you're worried about this, if you're listening to this and you're worried about sort of Pump Fun's market share, one, I would just ask, look at the past, look what's happened in the history, and then just believe in the team's execution ability to sort of retake that. What I want to focus on is like not like, oh, how does one market share take the other market share, who's got the sort of dominant space. It's more so how does this company move already in like in this sort of niche industry we are, and how do we sort of leave that, right? And I think that's like the overarching question, because all this sort of like market share debates and, oh, I can get my revenue up to like $3 million a day, $5 million a day, like that, to me, that's not a success. Like that's not what we're here for, and I don't think that's what anyone working at the sort of Pump Fund Development Co is either. Like everyone here, like working with us, we want to create a company which can have like which can have an impact which hasn't been seen before in crypto, right? And I think if you look at these companies, even at the largest ones like sort of Coinbase and sort of Binance and obviously sort of OKX and all these centralized exchanges, and then the largest decentralized exchanges, for me, these companies are all failures. Like I don't think a single one of them really has like an impact globally, which makes a difference, right? Like you look at this, you look at sort of Coinbase, for example. Like they built a Bitcoin wallet. That's all they did. Like the product hasn't really changed since sort of day one. And I think when looking at like a success case, you should be looking at companies which really truly like generationally change the world. You look at like Apple, you look at sort of all these sort of different social media stuff, which like every single person is using like hours upon hours a day, or you with your maybe your laptop, which you're using now, watching this podcast on, or your iPhone, you're watching this podcast on. You want to look at companies like that, and I just really want to stay away from this whole sort of crypto stuff, because like again, it's nice to look into it, and it obviously sort of helps with like moving the needle on small numbers. But like we're super young. Like I'm 21 years old, and my co-founders also 21, and so 22, 23. And I think like we want to be working on this for like decades to come, and really have like an impact. So our thought, and this has been since the start of like we didn't even set out to like create this to be to found like a crypto native company. It was more so like how do we just create a company which has like a global impact, and that's really what I want to stress on, and not like, oh, are we going to build another decentralized perpetual futures exchange? Are we going to build like another stable coin and all this other stuff, which like obviously we're going to do, right? Because it's like, why would you not do this if you have a good product? But the question should be, how can you like change the world? And I think that's really what we're focused on. So yeah.
Well, so actually, when I asked that question, I was sort of thinking like, so clearly, you guys are working on two different timescales here. You have, kind of your vision for the future. You have like, your goal to take on Twitch and TikTok and YouTube, like what you said before in your announcement, and yet at the same time, you just said like you're also, wanting to make sure that you're in touch with your users today.
Of course,
So
yeah.
like really when I asked that question, it was more like about that, like about, because you are kind of managing like two different things. You're managing your current audience or your current user, and you want to keep them and like grow with them.
For
So
sure.
so I don't know, like I did notice
Well,
like
look,
some
okay,
people saying.
to give some more background, like the company is very much sort of like, I want to say split apart, but there is like two sort of verticals. It's one is like this is like the future facing stuff, like what is going to lead this market to like how do we grow this market, and how do we turn this into something special? And that's like stuff like obviously the live streaming, like obviously the sort of the DM stuff, which is built directly into the mobile app, which sort of like no one has sort of really done in crypto except maybe Telegram before. And then you have stuff like the mobile app in general, which I think is quite amazing, right? Because with a mobile app, you get like this K factor, which is substantially higher than anything else, right? Like if you're just like, I don't know, just like hanging around with friends, or like you're in the subway or whatever, and you have your sort of mobile app and you're using something, like if you think about the best products in history, like sort of Netflix and like Amazon, like all this sort of stuff, and all this sort of stuff, like you didn't hear about it because of marketing. You heard it because your mom told you, your brother told you, your friends told you, right? And I think that's really what we're sort of optimizing for here is like, and the focus of that side of the company essentially is like how do you make a product as viral as possible and as sort of easy to spread by word of mouth. And you obviously have the other side of things of sort of retain the current user base and sort of looking after them and executing on them. But again, like that I think like I don't want to say it's easy because obviously there are some challenges which sort of come with that. But like I mean we've done it in the past over the past year and a half, and I have like 100% conviction we're going to be able to continue doing this. Like for me that isn't like the challenge. For me that I think it's a challenge, but it's not an interesting one. And I think the real challenge should be like again how do you grow this market out to serious size.
And out of curiosity, because this question has come up before, like in the world of NFTs in particular, like, do you prioritize one of these demographics over the other? Like, do you prioritize creators or do you prioritize traders? Or, yeah, like, how do you segment your user base and who do you think?
There's no such thing as like prioritization. I mean, I look at it like I mean, if you look at like current social media platforms, it's like oh, does like TikTok prioritize the sort of content creators or the sort of consumers? And I think the honest answer is it's like it's not very clear. And what kind of combines them together is the algorithm. That's a beautiful thing, right? The algorithm sort of mushes both the sort of the consumer and the sort of content creator and sort of creates the sort of market which intertwines both of them. So I think it's like, and this is like the most difficult question of them all, right? Like how do you create this sort of two-sided marketplace of the sort of crypto natives and then the sort of forward-looking like mixture between sort of Robinhood, Twitch, and TikTok and sort of Pump.fun as it is today. And I think it's like this is not a problem which you can solve with sort of one button. This is a problem you solve by taking sort of rapid, small, iterative changes, which like over time make the product like 1% better every day.
Okay, so in a moment, we'll talk a little bit more about Pump Fun's future plans. But first, a quick word from the sponsors who make the show possible: Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Tom Lee, Vlad Tenev, Paolo Arduino, Balji Srinivasan, Arthur Hayes. These are just some of the headliners at Token 2049 Singapore, the largest crypto event in the world, happening October 1st and 2nd. Over 25,000 attendees, 500 exhibitors, and 300 speakers will converge for an unmissable week. Token 2049 will take over all 5 floors of Marina Bay Sands, transforming it into a pop-up city with 1,000 side events, nonstop networking, and immersive experiences, all leading into the Formula One Grand Prix weekend. Ticket prices are rising this week. Visit asia.token2049.com and use code UNCHAINED for 15% off tickets. Back to my conversation with Noah. So I actually wanted to return back to this Project Ascend bit because I know you just announced that little, piece of it, but I was curious, like, what do you feel are kind of the major issues, that Pump Fund has now that you would like to, tweak and improve on?
Any major issues? I would say discoverability, like finding the best possible coins, and always sort of being able to sort of navigate the site either on your sort of mobile app which you're using or on the sort of website. For me, that's sort of super important. I feel like that's like a big thing. And then what else? I mean, obviously, like no, I think that's kind of like a feature of the product, right? I mean, like I presume like this is going to lead into something. So what do you want to sort of hear?
No. I am curious to hear, like, what do you, I mean, I do have a bunch of things that people have mentioned, but I wondered how you think about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that the big thing, like it's like you have to sort of split the sort of what does the user want, and then what does the business slash the overarching company want. And I think at the end of the day, like it's important to know that these are the same things, right? Like these connect. Like if you look after your customer, the sort of the company perform as well, right? Like even if the business is operating at a loss or just like sort of stagnant, isn't really moving, if your customers are happy, you'll sort of win in the end game. Like the customer is always the most important thing. So I mean, when we speak to users, everyone on the team and like the founders, we speak to users a lot. So whenever we hear whenever we sort of listen to users, like we hear their problems, and those are the sort of first things we sort of want to fix. So yeah, if you have anything specific, then more than happy to address that here.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like the community takeover bit was like kind of a first step. And then now, the way that you change the fee structure, like, is like basically it seems to me like what you are trying to incentivize is that you want people to not just do like the rug pulls, just like, a get rich quick scheme, but like to actually create something that's more long lasting and that also has like a big community around it. Is that kind of a way
For
to
sure.
think
I
about
mean,
it?
of course, yeah, of course. Like you want coins to perform extraordinarily well, right? That's like the best possible case for everyone, right? Like obviously the platform does well, and then the users who bought into these coins obviously sort of benefit, and it becomes like a global success. So obviously we had like a bunch of these different coins which sort of performed very well during sort of different large sort of world events, basically, right? And I think that sort of shows the sort of merit of like these large communities getting together and these coins quite literally having like an impact on the in sort of general. So yeah, I mean, obviously the larger the coins, the better the coins do, the cooler it is. And then the CTO thing, I mean, the idea here really was just to give optionality, right? Like if a developer leaves his coin and no longer works on it, like and a whole new community is coming in and really trying to support it and work on it, then we want to give them the tools to be able to sort of like guess take over that coin. But the truth is, like here as well, it's like this is by no means a solved problem. And for all the users listening to this, like we're working on this. And again, it's just like every other like angle of the product, like this is just like iterative improvement. And it's like this, we like obviously listen to suggestions and sort of try and like gorge that out and see what makes sense to sort of either make it and try and make it a better product in the end of it.
So, another, kind of analysis that I've seen is that one of the issues that Pump Fund should probably try to solve for is that, a certain portion of token discovery or like a meaningful portion is happening, with bots or on, wallet token feeds or deck screener, like basically not on Pump Fund's, homepage or in its app. And I
For
wondered,
sure.
what you were trying to do to bring more attention to Pump Fund itself.
I mean, again, I think it's like there's obviously some portion which is happening off the sort of front end, but I think that's almost beautiful in itself, right? Like, and that's like a really cool thing about Pump, because if you look at stuff like these other sort of enclosed ecosystems of sort of Twitter and I mean, yeah, again, like Instagram, Snapchat, all that sort of stuff is like you can't really see it on sort of multiple different different sort of plans angles on different side of things. So Pump is obviously one like a you use it, you can trade on it on its front end and sort of consume its content. And again, like there's obviously significant usage on the mobile app and the sort of on the sort of front end and such and so forth. But I think it's also infrastructure, right? And I think that's really beautiful about it as well. Like you have Mexi who Pump worked with, which allows like Pump Fund coins to be sort of traded directly, or like all these trading terminals and all these centralized exchanges, which I know are coming out with like these new terminals. Like it becomes infrastructure. And the nice thing about this is kind of like Hyperliquid, right? Every time a new sort of platform is built on top of it, it adds to network effects, right? Because if someone launches a coin on Pump, then it's seen on all these different venues simultaneously. And I think that's almost the beauty of crypto as a whole, is everything is so interoperable and sort of built on one another. It's no longer this sort of siloed off ecosystem of sort of Web 2, which I think comes with its sort of blessings and a lot of curses. But I think in our case, I think it's almost like a feature, not a bug.
I also saw, so back in July, Coinbase director Connor Grogan tweeted, quote, "The great majority of tokens launched in Pump Fund and Let's Bonk are today run by bots. The top accounts launch on average a new token every 3 minutes." When I was reading that, I was just thinking like, this reminds me of how on crypto Twitter now, there's like so many bots that are just adding like
I mean, yeah,
slop
it's
to.
natural, right? As soon as as a group of sort of I mean individuals or real human beings who are sort of working together or using a product, like bots come along. I think the real thing, and I've said this before, I believe even publicly, the one thing you want to focus is like obviously if people like buy into bots and they get like hurt, that's the same as like if you buy like if you're on Twitter and you're sort of seeing bots which are sort of spreading misinformation. It's obviously like a very very bad thing you want to avoid. But the trick here is not to sort of go into this sort of fight with the bots, because you'll never win that. Like not even not even, all these are large tech companies with like hundreds of thousands of employees can fix this problem. So that what you really need to lean into is you need to give the tools to your users to identify, is this a bot or is this not a bot? And that's the real trick. So it's about sort of tooling and discoverability, which kind of leans back into this sort of algorithm which can allow this to sort of grow out, right? So I think that's the thing you got to prioritize and really look after the users. So yeah.
Okay, so you don't feel like that's something that
I
is
mean,
necessary.
again, like all content is good content to the extent where it doesn't hurt or damage sort of users, right? Like the truth is like even a bot can create something funny or individualistic or something which can go viral, right? Like a lot of memes or like at this point, like I mean, half the world is AI generated, right? So I think, and this is only going to continue as time goes on. So it's not something you can just like stop with a sort of snap of your fingers. You really have to think about this on like take a step back, like how do you solve this problem? And if the user who's trading who doesn't want to trade bot coins, then you got to help them not trade bot coins, right? Then their algorithm has to give them suggestions in a way where they don't trade bot coins any longer. So that's what we're really sort of focusing on. Because again, like trying to like individually sort of ban these bot coins or sort of stop them from getting distribution, it's really hard to do because obviously there's with a product like ours, there's sort of there is money on the line, right? So if the other parties can take sort of actions, and you sort of get into this sort of like kind of a battle with them where it doesn't really make sense. You should be building a service which can allow every single user to identify what kind of stuff they want to buy into. So yeah.
And, a lot has been made about how the majority of people lose money on meme coins and on pump. I think the recent stat I saw was about 60%. So do you feel like that's a problem you need to solve, or do you just feel like that
For
is like a
sure, yeah,
function
for
of
sure. I
meme
mean,
coins? Or
we don't want people to lose money. I think that's like obviously like that's bad for us. If you lose money, that's like that's not a good thing, right? That's like we definitely don't want that to happen. But I mean, again, I think people also need to take this in context. Like I reckon if you take the sort of win loss ratio of sort of pump and one, place it over perpetual futures will be 100% worse. Like I guarantee that. And then two, just take the win loss sort of percentage, just like taking it on like all like top 100 tokens in spot trading. I'm pretty sure like your odds will be worse there as well. And that's like for many different reasons, right? Like you have like all these like founders doing all these very weird stuff, which I've sort of heard and sort of seen sort of firsthand. And you have sort of all these sort of VCs who are sort of invested into as well. And I think the beauty about Pump and really why we sort of built this out was because we got frustrated. Like you sort of like a year ago, like you were buying these coins and it was like probably like 50 people you've never even heard of or were so hidden away and so obfuscated who were selling your tokens that it would like hurt you. And with Pump, like you know what you're buying into, right? Like you're buying into whatever X coin, and yeah, you enjoy it. And I think that, well, you don't enjoy it, but like it's like it's not lying to you what it is. And I think that's almost beautiful, and I really enjoy that.
So let's talk for a moment about the crypto competition again. I know we sort of addressed it, but I want to address it from a different angle, which is I just wanted to hear how you think of Pump Fund versus some of the different crypto competitors. And we don't have to talk about Let's Punk if you don't want to, but I mentioned Zora. You said like they're going after normies. Like, what about Believe? Like, I just wanted you to hear. I wanted to hear you talk about what niche Pump Fun is trying to carve out, like what
Again,
the identity is that
like
you're going after?
I don't see these companies as competitors. Like they obviously like they come in, like they get like a bit of a hype cycle and they sort of go down again. Like that's a competitor is someone who come in and sort of maintain significant market share for sort of months or if not years on end. Like that hasn't happened yet. So I really don't consider it like our competition. I see as like the largest companies in crypto and beyond. Like I think it's like that's who we're really competing against, right? Like the amount of money which Pump is making is equatable, I would say, to some of the largest centralized exchanges on the planet right now, right? Like I believe Pump even had like a more profitable quarter than Coinbase and stuff like that, and that really sort of starts like if you start like sort of seeing what's sort of going on and like I mean obviously Binance they're like a in a division of their own, but and you look at the smaller ones like BitGet, Mexi, KuCoin, Kraken, like I don't know, I obviously don't know their internal financial records, but I would probably bet money on the fact that Pump Fund is generating more revenue than them, right? And I think that really sort of that's pretty interesting, especially when like the development company only has like 65 employees, 66, depending. Like, and I think if you really start to see what's going on, I think that's sort of quite special. So like this sort of smaller stuff, which like takes like a couple percent of market share or a couple decimal points of like market share every here and now again, is like not what you should be focusing on as like an investor. And if you're looking at Pump or a user, you should be thinking of like, wow, how does this company go from here to like making? How does Pump go from making $2 million a day to $20 million a day to $50 million a day? And I think that's always like our framing of how the product was iterated. It's not like, oh, how do we increase our margins by like 10% or how do we increase our margins by 5%? It's like, how do we create a product which can spread by itself and get to like 10x where we are, 100x where we are. And it's always about like, how do you figure out the next 10x and not how do you just sort of try and squeeze out a bit more money from your current users. So yeah.
So I also wanted to ask about your mobile app, which you launched back in the winter. I was curious how you've seen activity there differ from on desktop, and also what the breakout is in terms of percentage of activity on each.
For sure. Yeah. So I mean, the biggest thing is like retention. Like once you're on mobile, like your retention is substantially higher, right? Because it's like your own little enclosed ecosystem, and it acts like a wallet, like a trading sort of partner, and like almost like a social application as well. So that thing was sort of super excited about. Like the spread, like the likelihood that someone shares the mobile app is also higher. I believe. I wouldn't sort of want to. Sort of put my bet on, like I don't want to like put my brand behind that either. So I just have to double check if that's correct. But then I believe like for sort of front end usage, again, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I believe it's like 25%, or so actually something very substantial. Like a lot of our development now is going into the mobile app, because it's like we feel like desktop is kind of like a losing battle. Like everyone's doing desktop, right? Like unis, like all these like larger companies. I mean, so I don't really see it as like a company, but like all these like larger sort of like platforms, like all these centralized exchanges, like a lot of this stuff, like Coinbase, a lot of it is like, especially when a lot of money is involved, is all on desktop. And I think that's a problem, because that just like it inherently limits growth for the company. And I think mobile really allows you to go get that sort of stratospheric upside, which we're really looking for. So yeah.
Okay. And I was curious, so the UK's Financial Conduct Authority said Pump doesn't have permission to do business there. In general, there's, some different laws around gambling, online casinos. They could potentially apply to Pump depending on the jurisdiction. And I wondered how you were thinking about that, like strategically, or just,
It's top of mind, right? Like, we have like a massive legal team, work with a bunch of different external counsels, obviously our internal legal team as well. And like, yeah, you want to be on top of this, and you want to make sure you're breaking absolutely no regulations. And if there is like a disagreement, you sort of fix that as soon as possible. And I think that's really important, right? Because like it doesn't make any sense to run your business in a way where you get in trouble or have all these sort of run-ins, because like that damages the product long term, right? And it damages the business long term, and it hurts your reputation. So like, and I think like, and you mentioned the gap, like we're actively looking into this stuff, and like whenever we see a problem, like we'll change it or address it or make sure that doesn't happen again. So yeah.
So, on a related note, Twitch banned unlicensed gambling sites, and that kind of gave like an opening to a live streaming platform, Kick, and that's owned by Stake, which is an online casino. And
For
Kick
sure.
is home to a number of gambling streamers, and it sort of feels like, I mean, you have been bringing on other streamers from Kick. Actually, like Soul Jakey is probably one of the more well known ones, and I wondered, like, is that a niche that you're going after? Like, is that,
No, no, not at all. Like
no?
I
Oh,
think like gambling and pornography is like the worst industries to be involved in. I want to be clear. Pump is a trading product. Like when you trade on Pump, like it's a skill based activity. It's not gambling. And I think that goes for, like, if you focus on sort of gambling, like the content is so boring. Like you just watch someone like spin slots. That's not what you want, right? You want like someone who's like doing something fun, or like just like think of like the biggest YouTubers, right? That's kind of what the kind of activity we're trying to sort of incentivize. But that does not dissuade us to try different niches. Not that we haven't actually gone into the sort of online gambling one, I'm certain of, but stuff where it's like looking into stuff like, I know, maybe it's like sports, or like gaming, or so all this different stuff, all these different sections, because the way you see and identify if a product has PMF is simply like A/B testing, right? You have to see which vertical is working, which vertical isn't working, and digging into it, and understanding the sort of the psychology and the usage of it. So it's about doing a bunch of A/B testing, and then sort of identifying what niches work, and then sort of expanding on that. And what we believe, or what we think is like, and we've seen has been the most successful, has been like the IRL stuff, and that the streams have been sort of kicking off. So yeah.
well, just, in general, as you're looking to take on some of these more mainstream social media platforms that you mentioned before, how do you think about how to do that? Like, how do you break out of crypto? Do you feel like this strategy that you started, where you're bringing on sort of these, moderately well-known streamers, is working?
Well, no, again, like bringing on streamers, that's not like we've tried some of that, but again, like most, I would say like 99+% of the streaming activity on Pump is organic, right? It's just like word of mouth and people using it, and sort of speaking to them. And then what we do, however, is when we see someone like coming on and they're sort of using the streaming platform, and they're really enjoying it, we reach out to them, right? We put them in a group chat, and we're like, hey, do you want to do you want to go to like Africa, and do you want to take some pictures of zebras or something? Like we'll finance that trip, right? Because we want to have, like a cool, we want to have like allow us to have a sort of cool experience and sort of create better content. So we don't bring over streamers, but we do sort of open up the floodgates to creating better content. And that's for anyone listening as well. Like if you're interested in streaming, like reach out. Like we'll speak to you. We have like a fully dedicated streaming team who will help you out and sort of do all this sort of stuff. Like, and again, I said this on the Delphi podcast the other day, but I think we spent about over $250,000 on streaming equipment. Like this is like webcams, like microphones, which you can like walk around with, and like cameras and all this stuff to give to these people, so they can have a chance to sort of start streaming and get this off the ground. Because like, the truth is, like Kick, I think kind of has PMF, but the PMF just comes from like stakes, massive sort of gambling role, and it's like paying all these people to like advocate for gambling, basically, right? That's not like a long-term approach. What you really want to be going for is like this bottom-up approach where people are using the product because they love it, right? Like the thing I'd more look at as a comparison here is like the TikTok streamers or like the Instagram live streamers. That's kind of more the audience we sort of want to go for, because I think that's a whole lot more wholesome and a lot more rewarding, and also again can just grow a lot more than focusing on a bunch of people like wanting to trade slots all day. So yeah.
And out of all of the different activities people do on social media, why did you decide to focus on streaming?
Honestly, user activity. So we just like again, like this goes back to sort of speaking to users a lot. But I mean, not many people know this, but if you use Pump, sometimes like a Google Meets link will sort of pop up and be like, hey, if you join this for 1 hour, you'll get like 1 Solana, and then users will sort of go on there, and then like our engineers or team will user interview them. And this was very early on the streaming. I mean, there's obviously that whole controversy which happened, but even before that, we saw what we were like looking at what users were doing. They were streaming in Telegram groups. There was like 15 people on Telegram watching like a stream together, and we thought this makes sense. Like, why don't we implement it? Very similar decision making process to why did we bring in the sort of DM feature, right? Like, what does everyone in crypto do? And outside of crypto, they're all on Telegram, right? They're all your like all your VC buddies are talking on Telegram, or your trading friends are talking on Telegram. And if you can import something which is a lot more crypto native and create like a crypto like isolated ecosystem and build features for crypto traders, like imagine like pubs directly built into sort of typing, or like his stablecoin payments, all this sort of stuff, like built into a messaging app for the user base, which is sort of currently out there. I think that's sort of super special. So yeah, it's about like looking at what the users are doing and then sort of like building a product which is better for them than what they're currently doing. That's the kind of way I like to see it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's like a way to kind of hang out with your friends digitally, like in real time. Like you may
Yeah,
not
I
be
mean, I
physically in
guess,
a
yeah,
room
yeah.
together, but yeah, you're all
I mean,
doing
it's the same.
something.
It's the same here. Like, I mean, even those, like, we communicated over Telegram before this, or like every single trading group I'm in, especially the younger generations, I think, is like everyone's sort of like perpetually online. And I think that's like a really big thing. And like the other thing is like one thing I want to highlight here as well, as, and I was mentioning this on the other podcast as well, but like the people who use Pump are like the younger generation. So it's always like super like the people between like 18 and sort of 24 who are using this and sort of really focused on it. And I think it's like people are kind of fed up with all this sort of perp stuff, which is kind of like zero sum and just like not very social. It's quite like boring, not very entertaining. And then you sort of see the stuff where it's like when Alan said like Pump wants to build the most fun place on the internet, then like I couldn't agree more. I think it makes a lot of sense. So yeah.
And so, when you talked about how, like, you also want to get into sports and gaming, like, are you just, watching who naturally comes on the platform and starts using it, and then like trying to pick out people who you feel like could cultivate those areas, or like, how
No,
do
no,
you?
it's not about picking them out. I mean, you do that anyways. Like anyone who's consistently streaming on Pump, we speak to, and we look after them, right? It's like the same thing which TikTok did as well. Is like not many people know this, but they would have like whole cohorts, like hundreds of people who they would basically like teach how to stream. They'd just like give them incentives and like give them free food and all this stuff, and literally like they go to like streaming boot camps. And be like, this is how you stream. This is how you make the good content. So then that's something which is going to happen anyways, basically. So that's no worries. But then it's more like understanding maybe the gaming streamer prefers like a subscription-based model, or maybe the gaming streamer wants emote reactions, or maybe the gaming streamer wants to be able to sort of stream with multiple people at the same time. It's like speaking to these people and understanding what they want, and then building that out. And it's not so easy doing that either, right? Because you can't just go to people and be like, ask like, hey, like, what do you want, right? Like you need to go to them and just like build a relationship with them and sort of speaking to them and sort of slowly understand what they want, not just ask them what they want, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Okay. So I did also just want to ask like some philosophical questions because, I'm watching all this stuff happening and it just seems so interesting. Like, if you kind of think about almost like the history of the internet, right? It's like, Chris Dixon has this thing that like it starts with reading, then writing, then owning, for every version of the internet up through Web3. And, I was just curious, like, what do you think Pump represents culturally? Like, you're clearly enabling new behaviors, new types of activity. But like, what is that? How do you
I think
think
it's
about like where you
yeah.
fit in the evolution of the history of the world or the internet?
I think it's like what the young people are doing. That's like that's how, like I think right now the world, and I've seen it sort of firsthand, is like in a really dark place, right? Like the rich people are just getting even richer, and like the poor people are getting even poorer, right? And it's like the wealth gap is just increasing more and more and more. And it's basically it's like it's almost impossible to escape out of like that this sort of system because it's like so entrenched and so and there's all this like and like it's really dystopian, right? Like you look at stuff like TikTok and Instagram Reels, and people just like on this like 10 hours a day, right? And it's like this stuff is like, don't forget, like when you buy like an iPhone, like the first reason, like the main reason, the only reason you're buying an iPhone is so that you like spend money on that iPhone. Like that's the only reason like an iPhone even exists, right? And I think then it sort of goes in, like you open the Instagram app, and the only reason the Instagram app is so that you consume more content, so you watch more ads. And I think this creates like a really like skewed sort of like a skewed world, which like yeah, just like kind of like brainwashes a lot of people and causes a lot of harm. So I think it's like one, it kind of pumps and really highlights the fact that people want to escape this, they want to get out, and it really gives them the optionality to do so. And it might sound a bit crazy that this is sort of what meme coins are and what it has become now. But if you look at this and you speak to like I know like your interns or like your daughters like sons all this sort of stuff, like what do you do? And I think if they're somewhat sort of financially savvy or somewhat in crypto related or even general, like I had friends like I hadn't spoken to in years were reaching out to me like, wait, you're the founder of Pump.fun. And these people like they had no idea what crypto was, right? I think that really speaks for it. And then there's obviously like the Black Mirror episode as well. And I think it really shows that is like um the youth wants to like one create their own financial system and two kind of escape the sort of like it sounds like the Matrix, basically, just like being stuck in it and just not being able to escape. And I think it's like a I think people say like the internet has like increased access for people and allowed people to sort of live a better life and get more information. I think it's kind of true, but I also think it's like kind of not true. Like it's also like it's really dark. Like at least like back in the day, you'd like go outside or something, but now like it's just like Instagram, TikTok. Like you just can't leave, and I think it's like it's pretty messed up. So really, the hope here is for Pump, and what we want to help them do is create something where they uh, one, you can obviously consume content because people do enjoy that, but you can financially benefit from doing so anyways. Because if you're spending like hours upon hours upon hours of sort of really consuming this content, or at least like you to be able to sort of invest into that and sort of create a whole new market. And again, I said this the other day as well, but like I really believe that every generation creates a whole new financial system. Like it really sort of it sort of goes down in sort of layers, right? There's like the boomers who create like the banks, and there's like the sort of Silicon Valley people, and now it's like the crypto people. Like it's always like the like history always like rhymes but never repeats, right? And I think it sort of speaks to it. And now like the reason I like crypto, and I think where this is like the next big company is gonna come from, is because this is where all the young people are. Like all the really young, smart, talented people are all building in crypto, and I think that sort of should highlight its long term success and nothing else. So yeah.
I was also curious, like, do you feel like you're learning things about human behavior from watching how people use Pump? Like, do you feel like you're like seeing new behaviors or like you're seeing, yeah, culture or society evolve? Like, I'm curious, yeah, just what you feel like
No,
you're learning
I mean,
from.
I think like culture and society sort of like again, it just like it repeats itself in different ways, right? I think it's like impossible to like evolve. Like I think like the human nature is the same, has always been that for the way for the past like 3,000 years. So I think it's very hard to sort of engineer something which will create like a whole new type of acting. I think you can like take different ways of acting and sort of put it together. And could you argue that's like a different one? I don't know, maybe. But like all I know is when I first sort of started, even now, like streaming and all this sort of social way of like spreading the information of these coins is when you watch these people like a chart plus a stream, like for me that is like a whole new form of content, and I think that was kind of the very special thing I saw. So yeah.
So I did want to ask because, as I'm sure you're very well aware, a lot of people criticize Pump.fun and like similar platforms, saying it's gambling or it's the meme coin casino. And I wondered what your response is to those critics.
I know, just like have a higher IQ, I guess.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that again.
I said, like, have a higher IQ. Like, look at look what's actually going on, understand it, like read into it, and maybe like use the product and really understand what's happening. And I think like a lot of people, they're just like bad. And I think a lot of this comes from like the like the old people, right? The people who like made their money on like Polkadot or made their money on like Ethereum or made their money on Bitcoin. They just like, and that's what I don't like about crypto either. It's like super tribalized, and people are just like they understand that like Polkadot was just a meme coin which got launched like 5 years ago. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. And I think it's just like, oh my god, all this sort of bad stuff. I'd say like you have to understand what's going on here, right? Like this is like some of the like I would say like the for our age, like we're probably some of the most successful. Like we probably are the most successful entrepreneurs of anyone under sort of the age of 24 finding this sort of platform. And I think if that doesn't make your sort of eyes open up, then I don't know what can really help you. So yeah.
And I was curious for you personally, like, do you consider yourself more like a crypto person or a meme coin person or a streaming person? Or, I was curious just because like you could say that Pump has kind of multiple ways that you could slice and dice it. Like, or like, are you a social media person? And I wondered what your personal affinity is for the various, lenses through which you could look at Pump.
I mean, again, like personal, like, I mean, look, I was in crypto for a while before I sort of founded Pump. Obviously, I'm like, again, I don't think there's like one sort of necessary. I think that okay, that's a unique thing as well, right? So there's obviously three co-founders of sort of Pump. I think everyone has their sort of unique ability or their unique talent or their unique niche, which they're an expertise in. And I think that's why we're such a brilliant team because everyone sort of has their own angle of what they think the world sort of looks like, right? And I think that allows us to create something which is almost like a jumble of like a bunch of different stuff which is happening simultaneously. And I don't know, I think like I'm super interested in finance. I'm interested in like sort of social dynamics and how that can sort of impact stuff. And then, but most of all, I do just like generally enjoy it a lot. Like I do like creating stuff which people use and then can create these sort of changes in the way people think and how they act as well. So yeah.
Okay. And I wondered, like there's multiple different ways that you could go mainstream. And clearly you're trying out a number of these. But as you do that, there's going to be this tension between pushing the envelope, which like you kind of have to do if you want to create something new and edgy, but then also, like there's a certain point past which, like if you go past that limit, then it might be, you know, somewhat
Bad. Yeah.
damaging to your reputation. Or yeah, so what have you learned from like past incidents, like those streaming incidents where like people were kind of threatening violence, or whatever, just or just pretty much any of the other incidents that have happened, because there's been a number where I know
For sure.
you guys were challenged. So yeah, how do you think about
Yeah,
that?
so I think the biggest learning from this is like back when the streaming thing sort of happened, it was like ship a product. It doesn't matter how bad it is. It doesn't matter how like it barely works. Like just no consideration. Get it out in the world and make sure people use it and just try and see if people use it. So I think the biggest thing we've learned is just preparation and thinking about like the what's the worst case scenario. It's kind of like you need that one person in the room who's like, if this goes wrong, this could be something really bad, right? And then we had like obviously we shut down streaming as soon as something bad happened, and then we like had like a whole moderation team which is sort of working on that now, right? Like round the clock, there's like tens of dozens of people online to monitor if anything is sort of going on, and this works sort of flawlessly so far, and hopefully we'll sort of continue to catch any wrongdoings. And then you have stuff like new product releases, like the DM stuff. Obviously, that comes with risks, right? People could be sending inappropriate messages, inappropriate images, like really like illegal and bad stuff. So moderation also has to be employed on that. So it's just like, I mean, it sounds kind of like classic, I guess, but just like learning from your past mistakes and then and iterating on it and learning quickly, because otherwise you're not going to make it very far, I don't think. So yeah.
Okay. And so just going back to like your big mission that you announced when you were doing the ICO, do you have like kind of, even if it's a vague roadmap of like how it is that you want to try to take on the likes of TikTok
No,
or
no, no.
YouTube?
Again, I would throw this like roadmap fallacy away, and I would encourage everyone to do this as well. That this is not how this sort of stuff works. There's not like a 10-step plan of how to become the biggest company in the world. That just doesn't exist, right? right? And I think again, I said this previously as well, but if you look at like the best companies in the world, I mean, like WhatsApp, for example, I made that example last time. Like it hasn't changed. Like the product since launch is exactly the same product. There's like very, very few differences which have allowed it to grow to a sort of large scale. So the way these companies grow is actually by having small, just like very, very niche changes. Like I know, like WhatsApp, different languages, or for example, it cost money at the start. They then made it free, and then they did stuff where it's like, okay, up to 1,000 people can be in a group chat. These very small niches can unlock sort of next levels of growth. And I think that's the next thing we're really trying to sort of push out basically. And there's no such thing as a roadmap. It's just like constant iteration and just like rapid improvement as fast as possible. And again, just like speaking to users and understanding what the users want, and then also combining that with some kind of forward-looking vision, which I think the world is going to look like, which is going to be this sort of, I think the like the bank and the platform which becomes like the next biggest thing will be some like this combination of what all the Zoomers are using today, right? It's like you have your like you chat with people there, like you consume your content there, and you sort of have your finances there at the same time. It's like this bigger sort of envisioning glossed into one larger product.
Okay, so if I were going to summarize kind of like what this might look like, some number of years in the future, we won't name how many. It's basically there's communities that are aligned around creators and whatever content creators are putting out, but both the creators themselves and the communities can benefit financially. And whatever it is that the creators are putting out has a little bit of this, real time component through the streaming. And then on top of that, there's like,
A
yeah,
bank, like
well,
you have your life savings on this app as well, right? It's like imagine like you sort of swap between TikTok, you swap between Robinhood, and you sort of also got your bank, which you can like pay for at the grocery store, all in like one mega application.
oh wow. Okay. It's super interesting. So it is like the everything app kind
Yeah,
of.
quite legitimate. It's like, but like if you think about the everything apps which are sort of built out today, they're sort of focused on one niche, and they're kind of like old people-ish. Like it sounds silly, but like nobody really uses like Facebook anymore. Like this stuff is like it's sort of like faded into irrelevancy, and then like our generation or even a bit above us, like this Instagram generation there, and there's like the TikTok stuff, which like the 8-year-olds are watching, I guess. And there's like the question is like what is the thing which will hit the sort of next level of the 18-year-olds at the next generation, basically. So yeah.
And then one question, and maybe this is like resolved by the generational issue, but because of this sort of judgment and stigma that we see around meme coins, like I wondered if you guys have any thoughts or if you're like trying to strategize about how to overcome that with mainstream people.
I mean, again, like we've like purposely like tried to stay away from describing ourselves as a meme coin platform because that's like although it is used as that, like what we've built is a tool which can be used for anything you want. Like if people were only uploading sort of YouTube videos or like YouTube-esque videos on Pump, then it would be like a video sharing platform, right? So I think that's kind of the beauty of this. It's like infrastructure, right? It allows anyone to sort of well not infrastructure, but it's like a social media platform which allows you to do with it what you want, right? And it's super interoperable. So I think I don't want to like sort of say Pump is a meme coin thing. Pump is a short form video trading platform. Pump is a live stream trading platform. Pump is a messaging app. It's whatever you want it to be, and I think that's what you see to happen to these sort of larger these large applications as well, where it really creates something which is like you can use it in the way you want. Like Twitter is probably used for like thousands of different reasons. Like you already have historians looking at it, trying to understand like different opinions from like specialized historians. Like maybe it's like people who just want to like watch and scroll and watch people like sort of I know play music or whatever. There's just like so many different reasons, so many different like use cases for it. And I think it's the same with everything. And I think it's very dangerous to sort of lock yourself into one. So we just try and ignore it because I want to create something which which is a tool for everyone basically. So yeah,
Okay. And this is just like me spitballing, but
sure,
I was sort of thinking like, you have this like streaming component, which is like a real time thing,
yep,
which is sort of like you could think of it as an event. But
yep.
then, we have prediction markets, which, they're called event contracts. And I wondered, like, is there a way to do like some kind of mashup there?
No, just like again, like I think everyone's on this like prediction market sort of hype train or something. Like the prediction markets don't work. I mean, they do work, but like they don't make any money. Like this is not like a business. Like this doesn't really exist. Like there's not a single prediction market in the world which is. I mean, again, I don't know too much of the details, but like I think our daily volume is like sometimes in the billions, and like these prediction markets have like monthly volumes of like 100 million. And I think that really just shows you where like the interest of the users, and like taking this whole thing, oh, let's combine it together. Like prediction markets are literally just like a glorified sort of VC narrative. Like that's all they are. Like they're in my experience at least, until something significantly changes, these are not revenue generating businesses, and not businesses which have an impact. They might get like an opinion because like a lot of people see them for a brief period of time, but they're not something which people actually use. And like I think that this speaks about it a lot. Like if you look at the sort of different CEOs and for like different companies in the world, like you'll see um, like the best products and the best companies. Like you don't really see the sort of the CEOs running around preaching about the future vision, right? Because the product is just doing itself, and you see other people. Again, I'm not going to name any names, but if you like look into it, like the more the CEO has to tell like the vision of the platform, like the less it's working. And I think that sort of that sort of speaks about the world in general. So I think it's like the most important thing about is building something which the users want to use. So yeah.
Okay. Well, last question from me, and I'm only asking because I feel like people will be mad if I don't ask it. It's just like any news about the airdrop that you want to talk about?
Again, I would refer to like our sort of like public communication. So yeah, I mean, again, everything will be announced. Obviously, it's sort of there and everything. So just like look at our Twitter. I promise you, everything will be accurately addressed. So please don't stress.
Okay. Well, you said that you wanted to come on here and like talk about how you were gonna like bring this app out of crypto into the mainstream. So is there anything on that subject or any other subject that you didn't get to say that you would want to say?
But I think again, like I would just like okay, the biggest takeaway I would take away from this is like if you look at products throughout history, a lot of them they don't start off as the things which they become, right? Like if you look at like sort of YouTube or even like Facebook and these larger companies, like even Facebook, it was like hated. Like everyone hated Facebook. They thought it was like this ran by this like horrible guy who was like just like an evil person, all this sort of stuff. So it was like really really disliked. And I think, and again, like what Meta has become now is like probably like you couldn't even like you could barely imagine it like 20 years ago. So I think it's just like the biggest thing is like look where the talent is going. Understand that this stuff like changes over time, and then just like yeah, I think long term dedication is also a really big thing which can have like a really big impact. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, where can people learn more about you and Pump.fun?
I guess Twitter, I guess. Yeah, just like Twitter is probably the best way to reach out to us. So yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on Unchained.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining us today. To learn more about Noah and Pump.fun, check out the show notes for this episode. Unchained is produced by me, Laura Shin, with help from Matt Pildred, Juan Aranovich, Pam Majumdar, and Margaret Correa. Thanks for listening.